Okay. Okay. Hello. Okay, I was a bit concerned that I was doing something wrong, but I think it's fine. Hi, welcome. It starts at 8 Western European time, so I'll give it like 3 more minutes in case some more people come. But yeah, while you're here, you can already, relax, arrive in the space, take some deep breaths. Allowing yourself to let go of any tension that you might carry in your neck, shoulders, face. And with each exhalation, letting go a little bit more, relaxing a little bit more. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. Namaste. And yes, welcome. Hello, everybody. Very warm welcome from Barcelona to wherever you are right now. And thank you so much for joining, for taking the time and, well, listening to me. So tonight, as part of the One Consciousness Infinite Perspective series, we will talk a bit about Tapas. And for those of you who are new, this is an initiative by Kalyan Yoga, in which they invite different people to come and talk about various spiritual topics. And there's one session every Thursday. So I think you can find more information on the other topics in the Facebook event page. And yeah, but yeah, maybe it's a nice thing for you to check out later, because it's really yeah, it's nice to get different perspectives on things, because sometimes you're like have your own way of seeing things, and then listening to various people talk about the same thing can actually be very inspiring, and yeah, it allows you to see things from an angle that you might have not considered before, which is always fun and interesting. So yeah, this month we have some people sharing their ideas on tapas, and I am one of them. So I will first give you some explanation of tapas and spiritual practice and some more practical information. And then I will go a bit into tapas from the tantric perspective. So yes, what is tapas? Tapas here, we don't mean the Spanish tapas food, like the appetizers. In a spiritual context, tapas indicates the cultivation of willpower and self-control. So it denotes a commitment to a spiritual practice daily or within a specific amount of time. So a good example could be that you say, okay, I'm going to meditate at least 10 minutes every day, or you could say I'm going to fast 1 day a week. Now the Ramadan is happening, if I'm not mistaken, in which people are having the tapas to not eat and drink during the day, which is can be very which is a very beautiful thing. So when you take a tapas again, it means that you vouch to do a specific spiritual practice. And this can be anything that you like. So it can be chanting, it can be meditating, it can be doing a selfless deed every day, or it can be doing specific yoga postures, it can be do a specific pranayama, it can be a set amount of time. Like you can say I meditate for 10 minutes, or you can say, okay, I meditate 2 hours every day. This is up to you, and a bit depending on your spiritual development. You don't want to take on a tapas that is too advanced and might be off-putting, because then maybe you end up, not doing it. You get discouraged, like the mind doesn't want to do it. So yeah. Before we go deeper into this, let's maybe talk a bit about spiritual practice. So why would you want to do a spiritual practice? Now, a spiritual practice is always a tool for you to generate conditions in which it is easier, or in which you are more likely to go beyond the realm of duality and the senses. So it is a technique that you use in order to facilitate the revelation of your true self, of this inner light of consciousness, the background of stillness, this inner innate state of peace and contentment that is always there. And other people that say that since this state, this frequency of being, let's call it, it's always there, it's pervading every moment. You shouldn't really do any practice to come into connection with this way of being, because it's already there. So it's a bit contradictory. This is what in spiritual environments would be called Neo-Advaita Vedanta. And well, it can be indeed true for some, in a sense that you don't really have to do anything, because the whole point is that it's already there. But then for others, they say, well, okay, but this purification of the body and the mind that results from a consistent practice is a very, very, very helpful way of revealing this state. And this is where you get, all the practices that yogis do with the meditation, the asana practice, the pranayama, and various other things like purification techniques. And in this sense, you could maybe compare it a little bit, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to generate this shift in perspective, instead of, being caught in this dual world where you're in your mind and you're like being this slave, let's say, to your desires and the sensual world, going into this shift of perspective in this frequency where you see that you're already fully perfect and whole, and where peace and contentment are your natural state of being. And I think a good analogy would be to use, you have these drawings where, one person sees a woman and someone else sees a goose. And when you see the woman, you can't really see the goose, but then once you've seen the goose, you will now for always see the goose. So it's a bit the same. Well, of course, it's not a drawing, but it's a shift in seeing things. It's like looking at it from a different perspective. Now, if you want to extend this analogy to the shift of perspective that you would like to attain through spiritual practice, it's a bit more elaborate in the sense that the image we are seeing, let's say you are seeing a woman, is highlighted in every way. The colors are fluorescent, there's light bulbs everywhere, the image is screaming at you in every possible way that the woman in the image could be highlighted, she is highlighted. So if this is the case, then it's not so evident that you would see the goose, because the woman is like full up in your face right there. And through spiritual practice, you generate these conditions to maybe see the goose, like little by little, you're purifying the mind and the attachment to the body. Like little by little, you're taking away all the highlights of the image of the woman, so that maybe the two will become like equally visible, and this shift in perspective could occur. So this is what the spiritual practice is for. It's like this purification. It's generating the conditions for grace to come and to have you see this, see everything through this new state of being, like from the background of stillness, from your inner essence, your true nature, the revelation of the self with the capital S. So when you take a tapas, you commit to a specific spiritual practice for a set amount of time. And like I said, this could be anything, like maybe 1 hour meditation a day or 5-minute pranayama. But what's more important than just fixating on the practice is that with the tapas, you're doing it with a certain attitude. The attitude that you're evoking during tapas would be the most important ingredient, let's say. Because taking a tapas is basically saying, okay, no matter what happens today, no matter what story I get caught up in, no matter what drama may unfold or which situation might happen, I am going to do this. I'm going to do this practice, and I'm going to remind myself of my true aspirations. I'm going to take this time to align myself and remind myself of truth. So you might be like all up in a story or a strategy of the mind, but no matter what happens in that day, you will do the tapas, because it's a way of directing yourself, in the sense that you take your mind and you say, no, look at this, like, because you commit to it. Let's say you have a tapas that you do every day. Every day there is this moment of your day where you remind yourself again of what it's really all about. Because that is what a true tapas is. And this tapas, it does not come from the ego. So it's not in the sense of, oh, okay, actually I would really like to have, I don't know, stronger abs. So I'm going to do a tapas where, I do some yoga postures in which I get stronger abs. This is not really the point, because this would be self-enhancement, in the sense that you would try to improve yourself. So you would invest in some kind of external factor to generate inner happiness. And with the tapas, it's not the point to improve yourself or your physical manifestation or whatever. You're not doing this to get something out of it from an egotic point of view. You're doing this to remind you, to bring you back. It's not some strategy from the mind again to achieve some kind of goal that it might want to achieve. This is exactly the thing that you would like to get away from. So it is not about self-interest, like you're trying to get in resonance with this realm of transcendence of the mind and its strategies. So yeah, it's basically from a true tapas, like this true inner commitment. It results from really understanding and knowing that, no matter no matter if I'm liked by people or validated by people or loved by people, this is not what will make me happy. And all these things that I invest in, that I think will generate happiness, the perfect house, the perfect partner, the perfect body, these are not the things that will really give me this inner sense of fulfillment and peace. So how long will it take for me to see that I'm going in the wrong direction and I'm focusing on the wrong things? And yet if you introduce a tapas in your day, you have already this moment of recognition, this moment of knowing that you take for yourself to realign yourself, to redirect yourself. There is this saying, I think this quote, I think it's from Jesus, I think so, and he said that we're all busy building castles in the sand while we should be building kingdoms in heaven. Meaning that we are all focused on getting our happiness from external things, like I said, the perfect body, perfect house, perfect car, perfect job, whatever. And these will all go away. Time will eventually come and take your perfect body. You will become old. Will take your perfect house. I don't know when, maybe due to some catastrophe or maybe at the moment of death. No matter what you have that is external, gives you external gratification, it will all go. And this is why I said we should be building kingdoms in heaven, in the sense that instead of investing all our time and energy on these things, we should redirect our efforts and learn that true contentment and peace is to be found within. So with tapas, when you're committing to our tapas, you're saying, okay, there's no more compromise. I pledge to take the time to do a specific ritual of your choice to remind myself. And I'm doing it. Like even if I get home really late and I don't know, maybe you went partying or whatever, you still take the time to do this tapas because it comes from a deeper sense of knowing. And it's not from self-interest. Like anything you do from self-interest, there's a limited power you can access to make it come true. Yet if it's not for self-interest, but if it's for a greater purpose, somehow you have this tremendous ocean of power, like this force, this primordial force that you can utilize. And maybe to give like a very understandable example for this, if you have these goals that you set for yourself and you want to attain them, sometimes it's difficult to do it, like so you don't follow through, whatever. But if you have to do something for a collective good, like a humanitarian action, or maybe you have children and you do things for your children, then somehow you have more of ability to follow through, because it's not for you, it's not for the limited need, but it's for some greater humanitarian pursuit, which is very, very powerful. And with tapas, it's the same, like you access this fire, this power within to follow through, because it's not to, I don't know, make your body more beautiful. It's not to enhance your ego and become smarter or whatever the ego may want to be. It's not for any of those things. It's for the recognition of truth. So it's important to, of course, keep this promise, but sometimes it's difficult. Like if we are going to speak practically, not every day will be a day where you're fully aligned with yourself and you can have this great mystical experience during your tapas. Sometimes it's pretty shit, let's say. I mean, for me at least it is. Sometimes you have a meditation that it's just, oh my God, get me out of here. Your thoughts are all over the place, and it's you fail, or let's not use fail, but it's a bit more difficult to come to this place of inner recognition. And it happens, that's fine, it's not a problem. It's the fact that you did it, that you made the time and you made this commitment and you had this I can't find the words. You had this intention. This is what's important, because it's a commitment to say every day I'm going to at least try to remind myself. And even by trying to remind yourself, you're already putting your mind in this direction, which is very powerful. Now, the attitude during tapas is very important, in the sense that you're not doing this to get it over with, or you're trying not to. Like, sometimes the mind will have this attitude, but in general, it's more of a sacredness that you introduce in the practice. It's not just like, oh, okay, 10 minutes and then I can go eat my cheeseburger and be happy. It's you come there with this sense of reverence and really allowing yourself to drop, allowing all the strategies of the mind to fade away and giving yourself to the practice. Now, from my personal experience, like I say, some days are good and some days are not so good. But what helps me to get into this state of being is by reading some poetry or some quotes before I do my tapas, to get into this realm already of remembering, like getting in touch again with this feeling that I know I can generate if I really let go all the things that I might be thinking of in that particular moment. So yeah, maybe it helps for you too, some poetry or quotes from your favorite spiritual masters. Another thing maybe to talk about before I go into the tantric perspective, it's a bit correlated actually, is the element of fire. So, like I said, when you access this this tremendous primordial power, you will see that it can become very, very strong and very powerful. So tapas is basically the fire that can burn through all our conditioning. So tapas comes from the Sanskrit word tap, and it means to give off heat, in the sense that, or like shining like the sun. So you could see it as the fire of inner will. And when your power, your will, is aligned with divine will of self-realization, it can become very, 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 very strong. Any paper? Yes. So fire in itself, it's a big transformational power, in the sense that, even in our physical reality, it's very obvious, if you burn something, it goes into ashes, into flames, into dust, like it gets more refined. So you go from something gross, material, substantial, you put fire with transformational element, and it goes into the more subtle, more refined. And this is also what tapas signifies. Like you take the heavy attachments, the tendencies, the earthly desires and aversions, this lower frequency energy, and you put the tapas on there, the fire, like this determination, this inner will that can move mountains, that can really, really transform things. And this lower frequency energy gets transformed in higher frequency vibrations, higher frequency energy within your being. So this is the symbology of the fire, transform, like using it to elevate your own frequency of consciousness. So taking the heavy Muladhara, Svadhisthana chakra energies, and with the fire of the Manipura, bringing the energy up. And this is also what, in the tantric perspective, so I'll talk now a bit about tantra, or tapas and tantra. This is also what it signifies there. So In the tantric tradition, the concept of tapas is represented by one of the 10 Mahavidyas, and this is the sixth Mahavidya, namely Tripura Bhairavi. And the Mahavidyas in Tantra are goddesses that are the personification of a specific abstract concept. In the sense that when someone is venerating, yes, I think it's venerating, to a Mahavidya goddess, what they are doing is venerating to or connecting to a certain concept. I mean, instead of worshipping the fact that time takes everything away and that you should let go of all your attachment, people worship Kali. It's easier, like you can have an altar, there is like this goddess that you can envision, there is the yantra, it has more of a devotional element to it if you can do it to a very specific tangible thing. This is what the Mahavidyas are. So each Mahavidya represents a metaphysical concept. And then, you know, there is a picture of the goddess, there is a story about the goddess, but when people are worshipping the goddess, they're actually coming into contact with this concept within themselves, because it has more of it's more natural somehow for people. Like in some religions, they do it with other gods, you know. So in Tantra, they do it with the Mahavidyas. And like I said, maybe a good example of this would be Kali. Like a lot of people know Kali, and Kali represents the impermanence of time and how you should not get attached to anything because time will come and take it away. So instead of putting this in your prayers, people put Kali in their prayers. And now for Tapas, the Mahavidya is Tripura Bhaira. And she is the sixth Mahavidya, represents the divine, most cosmic level of tapas. So she represents the fire of the divine that is directed to the realization of the self in the non-dualistic level. And it is because of this fire that you also want to do the spiritual practice from a tantric perspective, because there is burning, like you want to go back to source, in the sense that, of course, you know, you want this state of fulfillment and infinite love and peace and happiness. I mean, everybody wants to go back to this state of perfect contentment, to your inner essence, to this state of pure and other being. And there's this longing, this innate longing, this knowing that it's there. This is represented by this tapas, also this fire. So this is what drives people to commit to their tapas practice, whatever it may be. Like some people, they have really extensive tapas practices. Like one of my teachers told me that he was once at a retreat, and it was a tantric retreat, and they were practicing with the Mahavidyas, and then they were with Tripura Bhairavi, and he said, okay, we're going to do 108 sun salutation now, and 108 sun salutation, it's quite extensive, you know, it takes a couple of hours. And when they were done, the teacher said, okay, you know, you really want to know what tapas is? You really want to know Tripura Bhairavi? Another 108. So it's really, you know, this intense longing and this intense, fearful power that is represented by Tripura Bhairavi. And it's Tripura Bhairavi is a terrifying goddess. Like in the Mahavidyas, you have the sweet and kind and, you know, Disney princess goddesses, like very gentle, and then you have the terrifying ones. And in general, it's the terrifying ones that will, to say it quite bluntly, get you to your goal the quickest, because they have no mercy. They just, you know, it's tough and you have to do things that will probably be very uncomfortable from the perspective of the ego, but it's one one-track line to self-realization. To put it real bluntly, yeah, like this is how it is presented. But the Mahavidyas, like for example, Tara, she's like the very sweet goddess of love and compassion, and then you have Tripura Bhairavi that says, "Okay, let's do it, let's go." Like really putting everything and just going and like all your power, all your action straight towards cosmic consciousness, let's say. So yeah, she's the primordial power, the force of creation, and it's this, to put it on a more personal level, let's say, that she is this force, the Kundalini, the dormant Kundalini in Muladhara chakra. So this, maybe you've heard of Kundalini, like this serpent, the serpent which is asleep at the base of Muladhara chakra, and when it gets awakened, it's this tremendous bolt of energy that shoots up through the chakras towards Sahasrara, towards transcendence. But this is what Tripura Bhairava is, this inexhaustible force that takes you back through action, through your own directed, focused, one-directed action. Yeah, I'm already going a little bit over time. I won't go much over time. I'm sorry, I have this tendency to go over time, but I think it will be like 6 minutes. Where was I? So yes, this gigantic potential of energy, this possibility of awakening the Kundalini, the serpent, asleep in Muladhara chakra. And because of this, this focused, directed action, Tripura Bhairavi can also be seen as Kriya Shakti in the sense of the energy of action. And this action is to be taken persistently through tapas. Like what they say in the tantric tradition is that in order for the water to be contained, the clay pot needs to be ready. In the sense that if you want to attain enlightenment, you have to be ready for it. You cannot do these things too quickly because you won't be able to handle this shift in perspective. It has to be gradually done over time. It's the same with the clay pot. If you put the clay pot in the oven and just put all the heat on there, the clay pot will burst. So in order for it to contain water, there needs a consistent amount of heat for a consistent amount of time, not too much, not too little. And then after a while, you will have a perfect clay pot in which you can pour water. And so what this means is that, through action, through commitment, through dedication, determination, you will become this clay pot which is ready for the water. And then all you can do is wait for this moment of grace in which this shift in perspective occurs to you. So you can take all the necessary action to make yourself ready and then wait for this possible shift of perspective, of yes, seeing the reality. I think for the Tantra of Tripura Bhairavi, yes, so maybe about the yantra, I put it here. This is the yantra of Tripura Bhairavi. And what you can do, so the yantra in the Mahavidyas, when they present the yantra, it signifies the body of the goddess in the sense. And what people do is they do trataka with the yantra, in which you do. Okay, so I will continue where I left off with the yantra. Yes, I'm back online. Hello. So the yantra in the tantric tradition is seen, as I said, as the body of the goddess. And what is done is you can do trataka with the yantra in the sense that you fixate on the middle of the yantra, and you do a meditation where you sit in front of it with your eyes open, you look at it, and you don't blink. This is what the Trataka is. What was I going to say about the yantra? So when tantrics are revering to Tripura Bhairavi, it's the sense that they are invoking this quality of Tripura Bhairavi within them. So when you feel like you would desire to tap into this infinite source of power or this primordial force within your being. This is a moment where a tantric would make an elaborate practice around Tripura Bhairavi. So this can be very powerful, and there's people who devote months and months and months working with a specific Mahavidya. And again, if you work with Tripura Bhairavi, it's to cultivate these qualities of inner will, determination, perseverance, and really cultivating this deep sense of divine willpower within you. And you can do this by doing the Trataka, like I just explained with the Tripura Bhairavi Yantra. Make sure that the triangle is pointed downwards. You can do, you can have a little altar where you maybe put a picture of her or work with specific colors that she represents, or any way that gets you in contact with the concept that she stands for. Because Mahavidya, you work with Mahavidya so much with the abstract concepts that they personify. So, yes, if you're planning on doing working with Tripura Bhairavi, expect to gain access to tremendous sources of power and determination. I thought to end the session with a passage that I use to get inspired. Like I said, sometimes when a tapas, when there is this possibility of becoming not as sacred as I would want it to be, I read a quote or a poem. And the one that I really like to bring myself back to this place of inner calm and quiet and peace, and to get out of these quite tiring strategies that my mind can sometimes impose on me. It's a passage from the Tao Te Ching from Lao Tzu, and it goes as follows: act without doing, work without effort. Think of the small as large and the few as many. Confront the difficult while it is still easy. Accomplish the great task by a series of small acts. The master never reaches for the great, thus she achieves greatness. When she runs into a difficulty, she stops and gives herself to it. She doesn't cling to her own comfort, thus problems are no problem for her. So yes, I think this passage of the Tao Te Ching really beautiful. Well, the whole Tao Te Ching is really beautiful. I really recommend you to read it. It's a book with like a lot of chapters, and every chapter is like a passage like this. And yes, it's very old. It's from Lao Tzu, but there's modern translations now, which is really nice. So yes, thank you so much for joining. I'm sorry for the technical problem we had, but thank you for coming back. And I hope you enjoyed the talk. And wherever you are, I hope you enjoy the rest of the day or the evening or the morning. Oh, yes, questions. I always forget the question. Sorry. Does anybody have any questions? I'll wait here a little bit, and if you have a question, you can type it in the commentary box, and I will answer it to the best of my ability. What I recommend. For me personally, I found it more, I want to say meaningful, but I was able to go more in depth with like a specific tapas for a long period of time instead of putting more variation. But that's because after a while I was putting in variations because I felt, oh, I have done this one now and I should do something different. So my mind got in there and it became came up with like these strategies which would be like the perfect tapas variation combo. And if I just stick to one specific thing, it's somehow for me personally it becomes more meaningful. Yeah, but that's the way I experience these things. I can imagine that for other people it's different. If you are talking about more of a tantric perspective, so in tantra they do tapas with certain mahavirya or working on a certain chakra, and they're for extended periods of time. The chakra tapas, which I think is like you work specific months on a specific chakra or even more, and so these tapas practices can become quite extensive. So yes, I don't feel I should recommend the specific tapas to somebody, but this is my experience with it. Okay, I think there are no more questions. I will wait 1 more minute and then I will close the live stream. Thank you again, everybody, for coming, for taking time out of your day. And yeah, I hope it helped you or inspired you or it was just fun to listen to. And yeah, namaste. Bye.